Okay, my name is Wendelle C, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Air Force. I became interested in the UFO phenomena when I was collecting information for the Air Technical Intelligence Center, and then I came up for a normal rotational assignment overseas. It turned out to be Anchorage, Alaska, where I found myself in charge of a team of special, highly classified technicians from my old Wright Field that were installing special equipment aboard the B-29s, flying their target profiles to collect data on this new anomalous aerial phenomena that was being reported in the North Arctic regions. And it was so spectacular. They came on a 200-foot diameter disc sitting on the ice pack on the Arctic, above the Arctic Circle, that leaped into the air and flew away with leaving nothing behind, no equipment, no stains in the snow, nothing. For us to launch a B-29, there was a sea of equipment bigger than the airplane around it and stains of all colors in the snow afterwards. This was unique because it didn't leave anything behind. And then in another case, they came on a 200-foot diameter disc sitting on the water in the Arctic Ocean that submerged and disappeared underwater. Another one like that took off and flew away, climbed at a steep angle into the air and flew away. These would seem to be clearly beyond all technical capability of known Earth aircraft. Now, with hindsight, and after having studied the Nazi discs for years, I have discovered that in their Rendezvous program, they discovered after some aliens helped to build the first vehicle that when they tried to wash it, the water didn't hit the metal. When it was under power, there was a field, a force field around it that made it weightless in gravity, and it could fly, it could rise and descend vertically and carry no fuel. It was a remarkable piece of equipment. But when they discovered that water wouldn't wet the surface, they tried to take it underwater in a huge lake in Austria, and it flew underwater as well as it did in the air. And actually it flew faster than anything else known underwater because the water didn't wet the surface. There's no friction. The water just parted and let it through just like it did in the air. So these remarkable qualities were discovered by the Germans way back in 1940, before the war ended, just before it ended. And so with hindsight, I have to believe that it's a possibility, a remote possibility, that what we observed sitting on the water in the Arctic Ocean and submerging could have been the Russian further development of the Nazi discs, because the Russians did capture one Kugelblitz plant, Kugelblitz research facility, intact, with all the work in progress, all the engineers, all the families, all of the technicians, all the equipment and everything, and took it up into northern Siberia where they continued the developments. But at the time, I thought they had to be extraterrestrial. Now I'm prepared to accept the idea that some of them might have been Russian evolutionary developments from the Nazi vehicle. Well, I think many are extraterrestrial. In fact, a well-known researcher came back from visiting MUFON in Dallas one time, and he was working in the American development programs and worked on our first developing our first discs that could fly in a rise and descend vertically and fly without Earth power, with special powers. And he came back from the MUFON group and he said, let me ask you, he said, you've investigated a number of cases of contact yourself directly. And just how many do you think might be truly extraterrestrial? How many might be Earth-made vehicles? And I said, oh, 1 or 2%, maybe 3% at the most, might be Earth-made vehicles, but all the rest would have to be extraterrestrial vehicles because the beings were different. Their morphology was different, their size was different, their appearance was different. Their craft were often similar, they're often disc-shaped craft, but they had different technologies and different equipment. I said we're looking at different databases. I have only seen in fact, I've never had any real cases involving Earth-made vehicles. And he looked away, rolled his eyes and looked away, and I said, well, what would you think? He said, well, from my perspective, I would guess that 60, 50, 60, maybe even 70% of what is reported are Earth-made vehicles under various conditions. And maybe another 10% could be extraterrestrial, and the rest would be misperceptions or outright hoaxes. And I thought, gee, that's a big difference in our points of view. But he was working on the inside, developing the American discs, and his information was controlled to him. He was only getting information on other Earth developments, whereas I was selecting cases of extraterrestrial contact involving beings that were different from us, physiologically and everything. And so our databases were different. But it was remarkable, to me, it was astounding that he thought that number of cases might be Earth-made. And that was before I got into researching the Nazi discs and came to a conclusion that there could be developments. All of the Kugelblitz bases in Germany when the war ended, or just before it ended, there was 9 Kugelblitz research bases, UFO disc research bases in Germany. They successfully evacuated 8. We don't know where they went. Nobody has ever found one since. We think at least 1 or 2 are in the Arctic, possibly one in southern Argentina, another one in the Martin Mountains between Argentina and Peru and Chile. And we don't know where the others have gone, but they were successfully evacuated and all the equipment and operational people carried away before the war ended, except for the one the Russians got. So it's up in the air now. I am prepared to believe that the Russians succeeded in further developing the